You're listening to my review of Steven Universe, episode 115, Adventures in Light Distortion. There's going to be a lot of spoilers in this review, so if you have not seen the episode, go watch it, or stop listening, or let it be spoiled. You have been warned. Hello and welcome back to the Steven Universe review that I'm doing all week. Today we are doing episode 115, the second episode in the Steven bomb of last week. This episode is called Adventures in Light Distortion. It's a very good episode, of course, because it is Steven Universe, and all Steven Universe is good. This episode came right after episode 114, which was just the bee's knees. If you didn't hear my review of it that came out the day before this one came out, go listen to that, because my god, that episode was great. I was so excited to get to this episode, The Adventures in Light Distortion. I was just so ready, and I will say this off the bat, and it sounds negative, and I'm trying not to be negative, but this is a little bit of filler. This episode is a little bit of filler, and that's okay. I just wanted to know what's happening with these diamonds and with Greg. And basically this is 11 minutes of them getting in a ship and going to what they call the human zoo. And I'll get to that if you haven't seen the episode, which, again, go watch the episode. So it's a little bit of filler. It's still a very, very good episode. I'm a little hurt by it only because I'm waiting to watch the next at least 2 episodes until tomorrow night, and I was really excited to see what the hell's going on. I might have a co-host on one of these review episodes, either in the next couple episodes. I believe 3 or 4 in, I'm not sure. But, so I need to wait until she's here to do those reviews with me. So that's okay. I can handle myself. I'm an adult man, okay? I can do this. I don't need to watch a child cartoon, even though I'd like to just binge watch all 5 episodes. It takes 55 minutes to watch 5 episodes. Can you believe that? You think I would just do that, but I'm going to restrain, and I'm going to do some other stuff. So this episode picks up right after the last episode. It is Garnet and Steven beaming back to their home, and Pearl's like, "Oh, you guys are home, yay!" And Amethyst is very, very chill, like, "Oh, what up, Steve-O?" But Steven, just the look on his face, he is completely devastated and distraught. His dad was just abducted, if you remember that from the last episode, abducted by Blue Diamond, and this is like just minutes. I mean, this opening scene is just minutes after that happened. So he's obviously still just freaking out. Pearl and Amethyst obviously quickly realize, holy shit, something's wrong. And they said, what's wrong? It's like, she took Dad. Who took Dad? They ask. I don't know who asked Pearl. Steven's like, Garnet says, Blue Diamond. And Pearl's face just, whoa, Blue Diamond here on Earth, oh my god, freaking out. Amethyst, still in the mode of, whatever, I don't really care. He's like, wow, they're coming in waves, or whatever, whatever she says. Not taking the situation as seriously as the others, obviously. I'm not sure if she realizes how big of a deal that is. If you just look at Pearl's face, I think you would realize. But it's like, Steven says a really good line here. Said, she took Dad. She alien abducted him, which I thought was really funny. And it wasn't until that moment when he said that, actually my second watch, I watch it twice in a row right now. It wasn't until my second time watching it until I realized the beginning of the last episode where Greg and Steven were watching the alien abduction movie in the van. And at the end of that episode, he gets abducted by aliens, basically. I didn't really piece those things together. It's kind of clever foreshadowing, kind of clever little, hey, look, at the beginning of the episode, there was alien abduction. Now, end of the episode, alien abduction IRL, brother. So I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't notice that till later. And she took Greg, Amethyst says. And Pearl responds with, our Greg? Which Amethyst then says, what other Greg is there? Which I thought is kind of funny. I don't know if they have a ton of human relationships, but Greg is Greg. Greg is the only Greg to them. I don't know if she, understands that there's other Gregs out there, other people named Greg, but I'm sure she does. She's not completely brain dead, but I thought it was a kind of funny thing that I should touch on a little bit, because it was a decent line. Amethyst is kind of the comic relief here, but, not a lot of comic relief, not much is needed, because his dad was just abducted. You shouldn't really take away from how intense that really is. So this scene happens pretty quick, but Steven says, what does she even want with him? To eat him? To put him in a zoo? And Pearl goes, that might be it. And of course Steven goes with his first one. He goes, oh my gosh, she's gonna eat him? And she explains, no, there was just this thing, and she doesn't really say it, but she's like, I can't believe it's still there. It can't be right. It's been like 5,000 years. And they're all like, wait, what are you talking about? And Garnet says what it is, but the way she says it, I want it, I swear, if it says this on like a giant like title card above like the entrance to the zoo, she says, Pink Diamond's Insidious Human Zoo, which I think is the greatest name of like an amusement type place. If that is like the name on like a placard or whatever on like the door of the place, I will be so happy. Pink Diamond's Insidious Human Zoo. I want that to be the name of... I'm going to open a music venue. I got this. I'm going to open a music venue, and it's going to be titled that. So any band can play hardcore, whatever. But if you don't like the show or don't know anything about the show, the name won't make any sense to you, but I think it'll be great. Write that one down. I'm doing that. I don't care what you say. But Pearl explains that was 5,000 years ago. My thought instantly was, okay, if there was a human zoo and Pink Diamond grabbed humans 5,000 years ago to put in a zoo, those humans would be dead. So if there's still humans there, Greg's obviously going to be there. Is he the only one, or is there other humans? And if so, then they've probably bred, and I don't know what kind of conditions they're in, but they've had other children, and it's developed into a whole society in this zoo. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe time moves different there. Anything could happen with a human zoo. And also 5,000 years ago, can you imagine the people they would have grabbed? I don't know, in this universe, this Steven universe, I don't know what it was like 5,000 years ago, but were they like, did they even have the slightest bit of technology, like the loom, making thread and stuff? I fucking don't know anything about history or technology like that, but who knows? Who knows what kind of people they were grabbing back then? So it jumps to them. They decide that they're going to take the Ruby's ship out there because it's the only spaceship that they really have for travel out to the human zoo. So they decide to do that. So it jumps to the ship, which is outside the barn. Peridot and Lapis are there. Peridot is explaining, this could work, but we should, change these things. And she's kind of trying to explain, like, this could happen, we need to maybe change this. But then she mentions, oh, this is all set up for rubies. Maybe we should change the lights to be green, because rubies are all red, and Peridot is obviously green, and that's her color is green. So she mentions that, which I think discredits everything else she's trying to say. So Steven is just freaking out. He says, I don't care about any of that. Let's go. We got to go save my dad. Will it fly? She said the short answer, yes. So they're like, screw it. We're getting in. We're going. So they get in. There was a part in there where Steven is on the phone with Connie before, like, they take off on the ship. He's on the phone with Connie, and he's like, Connie, I can't right now. I'm going to space. I got to go save my dad. We're going right now. We don't have time to wait. I'm wondering what this phone call was, why it's necessary to have it in the episode. Was it literally just to, like, show the audience or, like, tell the audience, recap, like, okay, what are they doing? They're going to space. what did Connie need? Was it so important that they showed like a 10 to 15 second clip of him on the phone with Connie? I wonder if it was something more important. He did say, you protect Beach City while we're gone. If anything happens, you're there. They also say the same thing to Peridot and Lapis, which Peridot is super like, aye, aye, Captain, fucking on board with helping Beach City, which is kind of interesting. But Peridot's, becoming more and more of a crystal gem every day, I guess. So I thought that was interesting. But Peridot obviously knows what she's talking about the ship, but they don't really listen. They just said, if it flies and we can get there, good, let's go. The next part is them flying into space, and as the Earth is getting smaller and like you can see more of the stars and like the rest of like the universe around them, Steven says, I hope Dad got to see some of this. There's enough out here to write an entire album about the cosmos, which I think is hilarious because space is so infinite. He's just like, oh, he could write like an entire album. That's nuts. That's like 13 songs at least out in this space void of nothingness. I thought that was a little bit funny. But he, I think he's just trying to cheer him up. He says, don't worry, Dad, we're coming, under his breath, It's very, very serious matter. It's just trying to keep his spirits up, I think, and that's good. So they're flying out, and while they're going through space, before they hit, like, I don't know if it's before or after, I don't know, they run into some asteroids, they kind of get around them, that's good. But then they hit a ruby. If you remember, there's like, 5 rubies floating around in space since the last episode we saw them in, and they've just been floating out there, and they haven't really mentioned them too much before, since then. They just mentioned, like, Steven felt bad about it, but they hit one, and it, like, lands on the windshield, then slides off, then they hit another 2 of them, and they're like, oh, there's the rubies. This is like, it was kind of a cool throwback, but it definitely wasn't necessary in the episode, but it was cool to see, like, oh yeah, they're still floating. I mean, they don't need food, they don't need anything to survive out there. So it was kind of cool just to see them. And Garnet says we should really do something about them, and Steven's just like, yeah, on the way back, my dad's like priority right now, which is good. I know Steven like felt bad before about the rubies. He kind of blames himself. He opened the airlock. There was the other ruby that tried to kill him that he let just float away in space. That one he felt really bad about. But as of right now, his mind is focused on his dad, which it should be. And I'm glad like he wasn't letting that get in the way of what's important. I don't know why he would. If they would have wrote it in there like, oh, we should really save them. Like, I would have been like, no, we all know you need to go save Greg. So they do some calculating. They're like, all right, we're going to be there in about 70 human years, which will get us in time to get Greg by his 110th anniversary of being alive, which I thought was a great way to put it. And Steven comes back with, he's not going to make it to 110. His health isn't good enough to make it to 110, which nobody's health is really that great, but especially not Greg's. And she comes back with, think he can make it to 109, which also hilarious, but obviously it's going to take him way too long. Steven's going to be 80 years old. He probably won't even make it to that, especially if they don't have any food. So they're trying to figure out, how the heck are we going to do this? But they remembered Peridot said something about messing with some switch or messing with some thing that's going to like alter reality that could get them there faster, but they don't know what could happen to Steven's body. He could be flattened into a pancake, all his bones and flesh into a small little pancake. Amethyst says some little quip about that, and Steven says, and I quote, if being a pancake means saving my dad, then bring on the syrup, as he hits the button without telling the rest of them. And they, go to this weird hyperspace unreality thing for a second, and Steven blacks out, and he wakes up, and when he sees the other crystal gems, they're all smaller. They're like his height. And they're like, what the fuck? So Steven didn't turn into a pancake, but it did alter their, physical beings. Pearl goes off on this tirade for like 20 seconds about some sciencey bullshit that I don't even care about. but basically saying our bodies are just light, and this is like distorting the light, which I don't want to get into the sciencey bullcrap because I'm stupid, but if they're just light, then why can like swords hurt them? I don't know. There's a lot of sciencey shit that I wouldn't understand, but I was just like, it's not necessary. I get it. Like, they're just like, oh, it's quirky. They're small. They're smaller than they should be. They try to fix it. Steven quickly realizes that the whole thing is set up for rubies, just like Peridot explained, so they're all ruby sized. So he's like, let me fix it. So he starts just like flipping switches basically, and then they become like smaller, bigger. They turn to diamond size, which is just huge. And they keep, and then he's like, I'm gonna do this manually. So he's figuring it out, and they're turning into like weird spaghetti noodles, and it's just nuts. And Amethyst is like, all right. Amethyst was the only one having fun with it. She says, all right, that's enough. Like, this is messed up. We need to fix this. And then this big X comes up on the screen, and he goes, I think I figured out a way to turn it off. As he hits it, they go into like hyperspace, and suddenly there's 3 of them, but obviously Garnet is a fusion. 4 gems get sucked back onto the back wall. Their physical forms are gone. It's just their gems just hanging onto the back wall, and Steven gets sucked back into his chair, and he's trying to turn it off, but he can't even like lift his arm high enough to like reach the off switch. And he's like, I gotta save Dad. And he thinks like all the gems are dead, and it's just nuts. And it's, this part was kind of long, but he's crying because his dad, he said, I miss my dad, I just want my dad. And he's crying, in which he's cried so much more in these 2 episodes than he has in, I swear to God, the rest of the series. He's just been tears on tears, which is okay. I mean, it's a very stressful time, but I just wanted to mention that. He's cried a lot. I don't remember that many animated tears in the rest of the series. But, so he's freaking out. He's like, this is all my fault. I didn't have to go to Korea. I should have listened to Garnet. Now, not only my dad is abducted, but, my friends are dead behind me. I'm about to crash into a human zoo with this ship, and I'm about to die. And he's about to give up. And as he starts, like, just basically screaming, I just want my dad, he's freaking out. He gets enough strength to reach his hand up and hit the power button, which turns off, like, doesn't turn off the ship, but it turns off the hyperspace. And then the gems come back, bloop. And it turns out that they were going over the speed of light, and since they're made of light, they were just lagging behind the ship. And I thought that was kind of weird, but whatever. What do I know? What do I know about anything? So they're all fine, and he's a little relieved, and he stopped just in time so you could see the human zoo right in front of him, and they're almost there, and Steven ends the episode with, I'll see you really soon, Dad. That's the end of the episode. So to say it's, filler is pretty fair. Still a great episode. All Steven Universe is great. But I just, oh my God, I want to see the diamonds more. I want more answers. But we'll get there. Not a bad episode. I have a couple things that I would, that I thought were going to happen. When they went into hyperspace and he thought the gems were dead behind him, he started like really crying. And since they were going at like hyperspeed, his tears were like streaming down his face and flying backwards. I thought his tears were gonna like bring the gems back to life, because at that point I thought they were dead, basically. Not dead, but he even said, he's like, are you guys cracked? Oh my God, why usually you come back by this point? Like, oh my God, I think they might be pretty much fucked. And I thought his tears were like gonna bring him back, because his magical spit, maybe his tears, blah blah blah. So I thought that, but that wasn't the case. He's just a crybaby. And the best line of this whole episode, the saving grace of the entire episode, I mean, the fact that Peridot explained all this shit, and they were just like, does it fly? Yes, that's all we care about, let's go. And when they become small, and Steven's like, oh yeah, Peridot explained that this is, blah blah blah, ruby size, and she could have calibrated it to be, good for them. Pearl says, "Why doesn't she ever tell us anything? This is why we don't listen to her," which I gut laughed about, because obviously they should have listened to her. She said it. They were just kind of like brush it off. "Why doesn't she tell us anything? This is why we don't listen to her," is the greatest line from this episode by far. I thought it was just so funny. Maybe it just caught me off guard. Probably isn't as funny to everybody else as it is to me, but I had a good laugh. I mean, for the most part, it's a good episode. I'm excited that there's no way this next episode can be filler between them getting off the ship and going to the human zoo. I know these episodes are short, but I think that, the next episode they're going to be at the human zoo. I can almost guarantee it. Hopefully we see some diamonds and whatnot. But, this episode's very, very good. If you haven't watched it, then why'd you listen to this review? You should definitely go watch it. To keep you updated on what I'm doing, I recorded both yesterday's episode and today's episode pretty much right in a row, and now I have to wait like 24 hours before I watch the other 2 episodes. Well, there's 3 more, but I'm going to watch at least 2 tomorrow. But I have to wait, so that's a little bit of a bummer for me. So don't spoil. You can't spoil anything, because this will come out by Tuesday, and by that time I'll have seen it. So thanks for listening. Again, go ahead and share this if you enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments. I don't care. I don't know what... a lot of YouTubers like rate, subscribe, comment, whatever. You could do that stuff. I don't really care. Most of my friends don't watch this show. But, if you enjoyed this, I'm glad. This is obviously a little bit shorter than yesterday's episode. Not a lot to talk about in regards to episode 115. I don't think there's anything else I need to say about it. It was a little bit filler. Like I said, whatever. You can't be mad about it. It has to be done. So the fact that this episode and the last episode came out on the same day, right after one another. I mentioned this in yesterday's review that thank God they did 2 in a row, because people, this cliffhanger would have been horrible. Well, they didn't really resolve any cliffhanger, that's for damn sure. So people were probably still just as anxious, and they had to wait 24 hours. I'll wait 24 hours, whatever. I'll keep it legit. But thanks for listening. This has been my review of Steven Universe's 115th episode called Adventures in Light Distortion, and we will see you tomorrow with another review.